Métis multimedia artist Susan Cormier has won or been shortlisted for such awards as CBC's National Literary Award, ARC Magazine's Poem of the Year, Anvil Press Lush Triumphant, and the Federation of BC Writers Literary Rights. Her short films have screened around the world at festivals including the Montreal World Film Festival, the Herland Feminist Film Festival, and the Berlin Zebra Poetry Film Festival. Susan's current projects include Back Down the Rabbit Hole, a Canada Council-funded research video essay about youth bullying, I can't say that properly, bullying, and organizing Vancouver Story Slam with her fiancé, Brian Ross. Yay! You heard this evening's story previously by James. So, her winning piece, second place prize, is entitled Metaphor for an Apple by Susan Cormier. Eve didn't want to share the apple. Adam just walked in on her at the wrong time. Adam was a great guy, as far as guys went, when he was the only guy in existence. But Adam was either overwhelmed or undermotivated, or deadlines had not yet been created, because Adam did everything later, and God saw everything. So God created sleep, and while Adam rested, he pulled from Adam's side a bloody rib, wrapped it in stardust and palm leaves, and he created Eve. And when Adam awoke, he said, "My God, you created such beauty." And he kissed Eve and thanked her for existing. Then turned on the television, and God saw everything. And God said, "Adam, I give you this world and all the creatures in it. Your job is to name them." And Adam named the stallion, the cock, the rooster, the beaver, then sat down to watch TSN, citing plenty of time in tomorrow's schedule. And God saw everything. Eve rolled her eyes, sighed, stirred some leaves in a teacup, analyzed the layout of the stars, and systematically created a lexicon of all the animals' names. She gave them each a scientific name of Latin origin, a common name for daily reference, and a nickname to keep herself amused. She named Jackrabbit, Unicorn, Eagle. She named Hyena, Bullfrog, Earthworm. When she grew tired and uninspired, she named White-tailed Deer, Red-winged Blackbird, and Duck-billed Platypus. When she took a break and saw that all the dishes were stacked dirty in the sink, while the television was blaring sports stats and scores so loud it had knocked all the unopened bills onto the unvacuumed floor, she slammed the door and named Three-toed Sloth, Yellow-bellied Sapsucker, and Dung Beetle. And after 3 years, 2 months, and a day and a half of naming things, even though God saw everything, given the current world population of 2, not one person said thank you or offered to brush her hair, so she named the weeping willow and sat down at his feet. And God saw her solitude, and he plucked a knot of muscle from her back, and 3 hairs from her head, and mixed them with some water from last night's rain, and created a green-skinned man with oddly shaped eyes. The green man sat down at the foot of the willow tree, just a little too close to Eve, and he smiled. "Have I named you yet?" she asked. "You are so beautiful." The green man shook the last of the rainwater from his ears just in time to hear the last word. He stared hard at her and repeated, "Beautiful." "You look so familiar," Eve said. "Are you Mustang?" The green man replied, "Beautiful." "Are you Eagle?" Eve asked. The green man glanced at her broken fingernails, calloused hands, bruised knees, and dirty feet, And he looked her hard in the eye and said, "Beautiful." "I knew you well," Eve said. "In another religion, you were Osiris. I was Isis. You were busy burning cities. I was busy burning bridges. You were Janus. I was Janus. Two halves of the same coin looking in opposite directions. How dare you bring your pagan influence into this new mythology?" And the green man smiled and said nothing. He was the last creature left to be named. So Eve named him Serpent, for that was the last name left. And God saw everything. And God caused an apple to be grown on the branch above their heads. And Serpent climbed the tree with still moist legs and hands that knew no remote control. He offered the apple to Eve. And Eve knew that the apple held all the answers to all the questions she left unasked. Like, how many dishes must I wash before my hands are clean enough for someone to hold? If my body was pulled from someone's ribcage, does that mean my heart must belong to them? How many names must I give away before someone gives me one of my own? Eve held the apple in both hands, pressed it to her lips, touched its skin with the tip of her tongue, opened her mouth, and said, "Adam, I got this for," she held the apple up to him, "you." Adam took the apple from her hand, polished it against his arm, and sank his teeth into its skin, looked at Eve, looked at Serpent, looked at Eve again. He knew, and we all know how this story ends. Serpent was torn limb from limb, or rather his limbs were torn from him, and his tongue was split like Satan, so that whenever a woman walked by, all he could say was a low, moaning hiss. And God said, "Eve, for your transgression, I condemn you to a life of anger and mediocrity. Your household will be silence and dust and misery. All the evil of the world will be blamed on you. Your sons will create murder and lies and war. Your daughters will avoid snakes and be taught without explanation to fear strange men with beautiful eyes. And you and your girls will bleed and bleed and bleed, because God sees everything and God apologizes for nothing."